Hey guys, Eileen back here. Sorry I had to cut that last video of the Hunger Games short. My mom needed me to help her with something, and I only did 7 pages, but this one I'll do as much as I can. So, we're on page 8. I catch it in my mouth and break the delicate skin with my teeth. The sweet tartness explodes across my tongue. Be ever in your favor, I finish with equal verve. We have to joke about it because the alternative is to be scared out of your wits. Besides, the capital accent is so affected almost anything sounds funny in it. I watch as Gale pulls out his knife and slices the bread. He could be my brother, straight black hair, olive skin, we even have the same gray eyes, but we're not related, at least not closely. Most of the families who work in the mines resemble one another this way. That's why my mother and Prim, with their light hair and blue eyes, always look out of place. They are. My mother's parents were part of the small merchant class that caters to officials, peacekeepers, and the occasional seeing customer. They ran an apothecary shop in the nicer part of District 12. Since almost no one can afford doctors, apothecaries are our healers. My father got to know my mother because on his hunts he would sometimes collect medicinal herbs and sell them to her shop to be brewed into remedies. She must have really loved him to leave her home for the scene. I try to remember that when all I can see in the woman who sat by, blank and unreachable, while her children turned to skin and bones. I try to forgive my mother for my father's sake, but to be honest, I'm not the forgiving type. Gale spreads the bread slices with a soft goat cheese, carefully placing a basil leaf on each while I strip the bushes of their berries. We settle back in the nook in the rocks. From this place we are invisible but have a clear view of the valley, which is teeming with summer life. Greens to gather, roots to dig, fish iridescent in the sunlight. The day is glorious with a blue sky and a soft breeze. The food's wonderful, with the cheese seeping into the warm bread and the berries bursting in our mouths. Everything would be perfect if this really was a holiday, if all the day off meant was roaming around the mountains with Gale hunting for tonight's supper. But instead we have to be standing in the square at 2 o'clock waiting for the names to be called out. We could do it, you know, Gale says quietly. What? I ask. Leave the district. Run off. Live in the woods. You and I. We could make it, says Gale. I don't know how to respond. The idea is so preposterous. If we didn't have so many kids, he adds quickly. They're not our kids, of course, but they might as well be. Gale's 2 little brothers and a sister, Prim. And may as well throw in our mothers, too, because how would they live without us? Who would fill those mouths that are always asking for more? With both of us hunting daily, there are still nights when game has to be swapped for lard or shoelaces or wool. Still nights when we go to bed with our stomachs growling. I never want to have kids, I say. I might, if I didn't live here, says Gale. But you do, I say, irritated. Forget it, he snaps back. The conversation feels all wrong. Leave? How could I leave Prim, who is the only person in the world I'm certain I love? And Gale is devoted to his family. We can't leave, so why bother talking about it? And even if we did, where did all this, where about having kids come from? There's never been anything romantic between Gale and me. When we met, I was a skinny 12-year-old. Although he was only 2 years older, he already looked like a man. It took a long time for us even to become friends, to stop haggling over every trade and begin helping each other out. Besides, if he wants kids, Gale won't have any trouble finding a wife. He's good looking, he's strong enough to handle the work in the mines, and he can hunt. You can tell by the way the girls whisper about him when he walks by in school that they want him. It makes me jealous, but not for the reason people would think. Good hunting partners are hard to find. What do you want to do? I ask. We can hunt, fish, or gather. Let's fish at the lake. We can leave our poles and gather in the woods. Get something nice for tonight, he says. Tonight, after the reaping, everyone is supposed to celebrate. And a lot of people do, out of belief that their children have been spared for another year. But at least two families will pull their shutters, lock their doors, and try to figure out how they will survive the painful weeks to come. We make out well. The predators ignore us on the day when easier, tastier prey abounds. By late morning we have a dozen fish, a bag of greens, and best of all, a gallon of strawberries. I found the patch a few years ago, but Gail had the idea to string a mesh nets around it to keep out the animals. On the way home we swing by the Hob, the black market that operates in an abandoned warehouse that once held coal. When they came up with a more efficient system that transported the coal directly from the mines to the trains, the Hob gradually took over the space. Most businesses are closed by the time on reaping day, but the black market's still fairly busy. We easily trade 6 of the fish for good bread, and the other 2 for salt. Greasy Say, the bony old woman who sells bowls of hot soup from a large kettle, takes half the greens off our hands in exchange for a couple of chunks of paraffin. We might do a tad better elsewhere, but we make an effort to keep on good terms with Greasy Say. She's the only one who can consistently be counted on to buy wild dogs. We don't hunt them on purpose, but if you're attacked and you take out a dog or 2, well, meat is meat. Once it's in the soup, I'll call it beef, Greasy Say says with a wink. No one in the scene would turn up their nose at a good leg of wild dog, but the peacekeepers who come to the Hob can afford to be a little choosier. When we finish our business at the market, we go to the back door of the mayor's house to sell half the strawberries, knowing he has a particular fondness for them and can afford our price. The mayor's daughter, Madge, opens the door. She's in my year at school. Being the mayor's daughter, you'd expect her to be a snob, but she's all right. She just keeps to herself, like me. Since neither of us really has a group of friends, we seem to end up together a lot at school, eating lunch, sitting next to each other at assemblies, partnering for sports activities. We rarely talk, which suits us both fine. Today, her drab school outfit has been replaced by an expensive white dress, and her blonde hair is done up with a pink ribbon. Reaping clothes. Pretty dress? Says Gail. Madge shoots him a look as if trying to see if it's a genuine compliment, or if he's just being ironic. It is a pretty dress, but she would never be wearing it ordinarily. She presses her lips together, then smiles. Well, if I end up going to the Capitol, I want to look nice, don't I? Now it's Gail's turn to be confused. Does she mean it, or is she just messing with him? I'm guessing the second. Says Gail coolly. His eyes land on the small circular pin that adorns her dress. Real gold, beautifully crafted. It could keep a family in bread for months. What can you have? 5 entries? I had 6 when I was just 12 years old. That's not her fault, I say. No, it's no one's fault. It's just the way it is, says Gail. Madge's face has become closed off. She puts some money for the berries in my hand. Good luck, Katniss. You too, I say, and the door closes. We walk towards the seam in silence. I don't like that Gail took a dig at Madge, but he's right, of course. The reaping system is unfair, with the poor getting the worst of it. You become eligible for the reaping the day you turn 12. That year your name is entered once, at 13 twice, and so on until you reach the age of 18. The final year of eligibility, when your name goes into the pool 7 times. That's true for every citizen in all 12 districts in the entire country of Panem. But here's the catch. Say you are poor and starving as we were. You can opt to add your name more times in exchange for tesserae. Each tessera is worth a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well. So at the age of 12, I had my name entered 4 times. Once because I had to, and 3 times for tesserae for grain and oil for myself, Prim, and my mother. In fact, every year I have needed to do this, and the entries are cumulative. So now, at the age of 16, my name will be in the reaping 20 times. Gail, who is 18 and has been either helping or single-handedly feeding a family of 5 for 7 years, will have his name in 42 times. You can see why someone like Madge, who has never been at risk of needing Tessera, can set him off. The chance of her name being drawn is very slim compared to those of us who live in the sea. Not impossible, but slim. And even though the rules are set up by the capital and not the districts, certainly not Madge's family, it's hard not to resent those who don't have to sign up for the Tesserae. Gale knows his anger at Madge is misdirected. On other days, deep in the woods, I've listened to him rant about how the Tesserae are just another tool to cause misery in our district, a way to plant hatred between the starving workers of the seam and those who can generally count on supper, and thereby ensure we will never trust one another. It's to the capital's advantage to have us divided among ourselves, he might say, if we were with no ears to hear but mine. If it wasn't reaping day, if the girl with the gold pin had no tesserae, had not made what I'm sure she thought was a harmless comment. As we walk, I glance over at Gale's face, still smoldering underneath his stony expression. His rages seem pointless to me, although I never say so. It's not that I don't agree with him, I do. But what good is it yelling about the capital in the middle of the woods? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make things fair, it doesn't fill our stomachs. In fact, it often scares off the nearby game. I let him yell, though. Better he does it in the woods than in the district. Gale and I divide our spoils, leaving 2 fish, a couple of loaves of good bread, greens, and a quart of strawberries, salt, paraffin, and a bit of honey for each. See you in the square, I say. Wear something pretty, he says flatly. At home, I find my mother and sister are ready to go. My mother wears a fine dress from her apothecary days. Prim is in a skirt and a ruffled blouse. It is a bit big on her, but my mother has made it stay with pins. Even so, she's having trouble keeping your blouse tucked in the back. A tub of warm water waits for me. I scrub off the dirt and sweat from the woods and even wash my hair. To my surprise, my mother has laid out one of her own lovely dresses for me, a soft blue thing that matches with matching shoes. Are you sure? I ask. I'm trying to get past rejecting offers of help from her. For a while I was so angry I wouldn't allow her to do anything for me, and this is something special. Her clothes from her past are very precious to her. Of course. Let's put your hair up too, she says, and let her towel dry it and braid it up on my head. I can hardly recognize myself in the cracked mirror that leans against the wall. You look beautiful, says Prim in a hushed voice. Nothing like myself, I say. I hug her because I know these next few hours will be terrible for her. Her first reaping. She's about as safe as you can get since she's only entered once. I wouldn't let her take out any tesserae, but she's worried about me, that the unthinkable might happen. I protect Prim in every way I can, but I'm powerless against the reaping. The anguish I always feel when she's in pain wells up in my chest and threatens to register on my face. I notice her blouse has pulled out of her skirt in the back again, and I force myself to stay calm. Tuck your tail in, little duck, I say, soothing the blouse back in place. So that'll be all for today. We have read page 8 through page 15. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Just kidding, actually, I don't think I'll have enough for the whole page, but I'll try. Prim giggles and gives me a small quack. Quack yourself, I say with a delighted laugh, the kind only Prim can draw out of me. Come on, let's eat, I say, and I plant a quick kiss on the top of her head. The fish and greens are already cooking in a stew, but that will be for supper. We decide to save the strawberries and bakery bread for this evening's meal to make it special, we say. Instead, we drink milk from Prim's goat. Lady, and eat through the bread made from the tessera grain, although no one has much appetite anyway. At 1 o'clock we head for the square.